I should have known something was off the moment Emma asked if we could talk. We had been together for 4 years, engaged for one, and deep into wedding planning. The venue was booked, the dress was picked, and invitations were about to go out. Yet, when she sat me down on our couch that evening, the look in her eyes wasn't the usual excitement about our future. It was hesitation. "I've been thinking a lot," she started, her fingers fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. "And I need to be honest with you." My stomach clenched. Nothing good ever started with those words. "Okay," I said carefully, bracing myself. She let out a deep sigh, avoiding my eyes. "I think I need a break. Not forever. Just some time apart." My mind went blank for a moment before I forced myself to speak. "A break?" She nodded, still not looking at me. "I just feel like I haven't had the chance to really explore things. I jumped into this relationship right after my last one, and I never got closure with Jake." Jake, her ex. The one she told me she was completely over. The one she assured me was nothing but a piece of her past. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "You want to explore your ex?" She flinched at my tone. "It's not like that. I need to know for sure that I'm making the right decision by marrying you." I stared at her, my chest tightening with every second of silence between us. We had built a life together. We had made plans, shared dreams, and promised each other a future. And now, she was saying she wasn't sure? "You've had 4 years to know," I finally said, my voice hollow. "If you don't know by now, what's the point?" She bit her lip. "I love you, but I don't want to go into marriage with doubts. That wouldn't be fair to either of us." I let out a sharp laugh, though there was no humor in it. "So your solution is to take a break? To go and see if you still have feelings for Jake? And then what? If you don't, you come back and we pretend this never happened?" She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "It's not like that," she pleaded. "I just need clarity." I shook my head, standing up. "You want a break? Fine. You can have it. But I'm telling you right now, if you walk out that door, there's no coming back." Her eyes widened in shock. "What? No, I don't mean to break up. I just need some time." I exhaled sharply, my fists clenching. "Time for what, Emma? To test if you still have feelings for another man? To see if he's a better option?" She hesitated, and that moment of silence was all the answer I needed. I grabbed my keys and turned towards the door. "You don't need time. You've already made your decision." And with that, I walked out, slamming the door behind me. I drove aimlessly for an hour, my hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. The city lights blurred together as my mind raced, replaying Emma's words over and over. "I need clarity. I just need some time. I don't want to go into marriage with doubts." Bullshit. She didn't need time. She wanted an excuse, a safety net. She wanted to keep me in her back pocket while she ran back to Jake to see if the grass was greener. And if it wasn't, she'd come crawling back, expecting me to welcome her with open arms. No, I wasn't going to be anyone's second choice. By the time I finally pulled over, I found myself in front of my best friend Ethan's apartment. He opened the door, half asleep in his basketball shorts and an old hoodie, his eyes squinting in confusion. "Dude, it's almost midnight," he mumbled. "What's going on?" I pushed past him and collapsed onto his couch. "Emma wants a break." That woke him up instantly. "What?" I ran a hand through my hair, the weight of everything pressing down on me. "She said she's not sure about marrying me, that she needs to explore things before she commits." Ethan let out a low whistle, sitting on the armrest. "And by explore, she means her ex?" I nodded, my jaw tightening. "Jake." His expression darkened. "That dickhead? Didn't he cheat on her?" "Yup." Ethan shook his head. "And now she wants to go back to him? What the hell is wrong with her?" I sighed, leaning back into the couch. "She says she needs clarity." "Clarity?" He scoffed. "You don't need clarity when you're about to marry someone. You either love them, or you don't." That hit me harder than I expected. I had spent the past 4 years believing that Emma loved me, that we were solid, that no matter what, we were building a future together. And now, in a single conversation, it all came crashing down. Ethan stood up and grabbed 2 beers from the fridge, tossing one to me. "So what now?" I cracked open the bottle, taking a long sip before answering. I told her if she walks out, there's no coming back. His eyebrows shot up. Damn, you serious? Dead serious. Ethan nodded in approval. Good. She made her choice. Let her live with it. I wanted to agree, but a part of me still felt the sting. Just yesterday, we were talking about cake flavors. Now, she was probably texting Jake, letting him know she was free. My stomach twisted at the thought. Ethan must have noticed my expression because he leaned forward. Listen, man, I know it sucks, but trust me, if she was willing to risk your entire relationship for a maybe with her ex, she was never really in it to begin with. I exhaled sharply. Yeah. Ethan clapped a hand on my shoulder. Look, stay here tonight. Clear your head. And tomorrow, we move on. I nodded, but deep down, I knew it wouldn't be that simple. Because even if I had walked away from Emma, I wasn't sure if my heart had. I woke up to the sound of Ethan clanking around in the kitchen, the smell of coffee and eggs filling the air. My body felt heavy, like I had been hit by a truck. But no, the reality was worse. I had been hit by Emma's betrayal. I groaned and sat up, rubbing my face. The events of last night came rushing back. The break. The mention of her ex. The way she hesitated when I asked if she had already made up her mind. Morning, Heartbreak Hotel. Ethan called from the kitchen. You want coffee? I grunted in response, dragging myself off the couch. Ethan slid a steaming mug toward me as I slumped into a chair. So, he said, taking a bite of his eggs, what's the plan? The plan? I scoffed. What plan? My fiancée just told me she wants to explore her ex, and I walked out. I don't think there's a guidebook for this. Ethan shrugged. Well, there's definitely a guidebook for not being a doormat. And you're off to a solid start. I sighed, gripping the coffee mug tightly. I don't even know what to do next. Do I go back and pack my things? Do I wait for her to realize she screwed up? Ethan raised an eyebrow. Dude, you already told her. If she leaves, there's no coming back. Are you seriously waiting for her to change her mind? I hesitated. As much as I wanted to act tough, there was still a small, stupid part of me that hoped she'd realize what she was throwing away. That she'd call me, apologize, and say she didn't mean it. But another part of me knew better. If she truly loved me, she wouldn't have put me in this position in the first place. I thought we were solid, I admitted. We had everything planned. How do you go from planning a life together to suddenly being unsure? Ethan leaned back in his chair. It's simple. She never let go of Jake. She kept him in the back of her mind, probably compared you to him without even realizing it. And now, with the wedding coming up, she panicked and decided to test the waters. I clenched my jaw. So what, I was just a backup plan? More like the safe choice, Ethan said, not sugarcoating it. You were stable. You treated her right. But in the back of her head, she still had unfinished business with that asshole. And instead of fully committing to you, she wants to go see if he's still an option. His words stung because I knew they were true. So what now? I asked, my voice rough. You move on, Ethan said simply. You don't go crawling back. You don't wait around for her to figure out if she wants you or him. She had a choice, and she made it. Now you make yours. I nodded, taking another sip of coffee. Ethan was right. I wasn't going to sit around waiting for Emma to decide if I was worth it. I needed to take control of my own life. And the first step? Packing my stuff and getting the hell out of our apartment. Ethan's car screeched to a stop in front of my apartment complex. My heart pounded as I stared at the building. My home for the past 2 years with Emma. Except now, it didn't feel like home. It felt like a place I needed to escape from. You ready for this? Ethan asked, cutting the engine. I exhaled sharply, gripping the door handle. Not really. Ethan snorted. Too bad. We're doing it anyway. We stepped out, and the cold morning air hit me like a slap. Every step toward the front door felt heavier. I didn't know what I'd walk into. Emma crying, begging me to stay? Emma completely unbothered? Emma gone already? I shoved my key into the lock and pushed the door open. The apartment was eerily silent. Sunlight streamed in through the curtains, illuminating the framed engagement photos still hanging on the walls. My stomach twisted at the sight of them. Just a week ago, I had been staring at those pictures with excitement. Now, they felt like a cruel joke. Ethan gave a low whistle. Damn. Thought she'd at least throw your stuff on the curb for dramatic effect. I forced a smirk. Guess I should be grateful. I made my way to the bedroom, my movements mechanical. The closet door was slightly open, and something inside caught my eye. A half-packed suitcase sitting on the floor. Emma's. My chest tightened. So she had started packing, but she hadn't left yet. I took a slow step back, my mind racing. Had she hesitated? Was she still debating whether to go through with this break? Or was she waiting for me to make the first move? Ethan peeked over my shoulder. Oh, hell no. I turned to him. What? He walked over to my nightstand and grabbed a small, folded note. He held it up like it was a dirty napkin. She left you a letter? What is this, a middle school breakup? My stomach dropped. Give me that. He handed it over, and I unfolded it with shaky fingers. I didn't know how to say this in person. I know you're angry, and I don't blame you. I just need time to figure things out. Please don't hate me. I hope we can talk soon. Emma. I stared at the words, my pulse hammering. She's stringing you along, Ethan said, reading over my shoulder. She doesn't even say she's sorry, just that she needs time. He made air quotes with his fingers. Translation. She's keeping you on standby in case her ex sucks. I crumpled the note in my fist. Screw this. I turned to the closet, yanking my suitcases from the top shelf and throwing them open on the bed. I started grabbing clothes by the handful, shoving them in without any care for folding or sorting. Ethan grinned. That's the spirit. I moved like a man possessed, ripping my things from drawers, from shelves, from the bathroom. Every item I stuffed into my bag felt like reclaiming a piece of myself. I yanked open the nightstand drawer and froze. The engagement ring. It sat there in its velvet box, mocking me. I had spent months saving up for that ring, picturing the moment I'd slide it onto Emma's finger. Now, it was worthless. I grabbed it, stormed into the kitchen, and without hesitation, chucked it into the trash. Ethan let out an approving laugh. Damn, that was satisfying. I zipped up my last suitcase and took one last look around. This wasn't my home anymore. And Emma? She wasn't my future. I grabbed my bags, squared my shoulders, and turned to Ethan. Let's get the hell out of here. The trunk slammed shut as I tossed my last suitcase inside. The crisp morning air stung my face, but I barely felt it. I stood beside Ethan's car, staring up at the apartment building one last time. It didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a graveyard of broken promises. Ethan clapped me on the back. Well, that was therapeutic. Where to now? I exhaled, glancing at my suitcases. No idea. A hotel for now, I guess. Ethan smirked. Nah, you're crashing at my place. You need supervision. Can't have you doing something dumb like texting her. I scoffed. Not happening. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? Because guys in your situation tend to get nostalgic real quick. Next thing you know, you're writing some I miss you text at 2 in the morning. I rolled my eyes. Trust me, I'd rather set myself on fire. Good. He opened the driver's side door. Get in. I was about to climb into the passenger seat when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I froze. Emma. Her name lit up the screen, and for a second, my stomach twisted. Was she calling to apologize? To take it all back? Ethan leaned over. No way. Do not answer that. I hesitated. Every rational part of me screamed to ignore it. But there was still a lingering part of me, the idiot part, that needed to hear what she had to say. I clenched my jaw and hit answer, putting it on speaker. What do you want, Emma? There was silence on the other end, followed by a shaky breath. I saw your stuff was gone. Yeah, I said coldly. What did you expect? She sniffled. I don't know. I didn't think you'd actually leave like that. Ethan made a face, mouthing, Is she serious? I tightened my grip on the phone. You told me you wanted a break. I gave you one. That's not what I meant, she whispered. I just needed time to figure things out. I let out a bitter laugh. Yeah? And were you figuring things out by talking to Jake? She didn't answer. That silence told me everything. I felt a surge of anger rise in my chest. You know what, Emma? Forget it. You made your choice. You wanted time to see if your ex was worth it? Fine. But I'm not gonna sit around waiting for you to come back when he disappoints you again. She let out a shaky breath. I didn't mean to hurt you. I clenched my jaw. Yeah? Well, you did. And now I'm done. Silence. Then, in the softest voice, she said, So, that's it? I closed my eyes for a second, forcing myself to stay firm. Yeah, Emma. That's it. I hung up. For a few seconds, the car was dead silent. Then Ethan let out a victorious cheer, slapping the steering wheel. Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about. I let out a breath, my chest feeling lighter than it had in days. For the first time since Emma dropped her bombshell, I felt free. Ethan grinned, starting the car. All right, man. You're officially single. Let's celebrate. Drinks on me. I smirked. Now that's a plan. As we pulled away, I didn't look back. The bar was crowded, and the loud music hit me like a wave as we stepped inside. The dim lighting, the chatter, the clinking of glasses. It was a welcome distraction from everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. Ethan slapped me on the back, grinning from ear to ear. This is it, my man. The start of your new, carefree life. No more dealing with her drama. I nodded, forcing a smile, but inside, it felt like a hurricane was still swirling around in my chest. The phone call from Emma kept replaying in my mind. Her voice, shaky and desperate, but I had stood my ground. I had walked away, and yet, a part of me still felt that familiar ache. I'm getting us drinks, Ethan announced, already heading to the bar. I stayed by the table, staring at the empty glass in front of me. The weight of the ring I'd thrown away was still there, heavy in my chest. I had been so sure that walking away would bring relief, but it hadn't. The door opened, and a woman stepped in, drawing my attention. She was tall, with fiery red hair, wearing a leather jacket and a confident smile. She scanned the room briefly before her eyes locked onto mine. Without thinking, I straightened in my chair. Something about her made me stand up a little straighter, even though I was still emotionally raw. She smiled and made her way over to the bar. I tried to shake the feeling off. I wasn't ready for this. I wasn't looking for anyone. Not now. But as Ethan returned with drinks in hand, I couldn't help but glance back at her. Dude, stop. You're not thinking about going after that, are you? Ethan teased, following my gaze. I glared at him. Shut up, man. But there was something magnetic about her. Her energy, the way she carried herself like she owned the room. It was impossible not to notice. Ethan set the drinks down on the table. I'm just saying, if you're gonna rebound, you might as well do it with someone who isn't a walking disaster. I didn't respond, still distracted by the woman at the bar. She glanced over her shoulder, and our eyes met. For a split second, I felt a spark. Something that wasn't entirely about Emma. But before I could gather my thoughts, she turned away, vanishing into the crowd. I wasn't sure what had just happened, but I couldn't shake the feeling. The strange pull. You good, bro? Ethan asked, raising an eyebrow. Yeah. I shook my head, trying to focus. Just thinking. Ethan grabbed his drink and leaned back in his chair. You know, if you want to get back out there, I can hook you up. I know a few people. Not a big deal. I chuckled. I'm not trying to jump into another relationship. Ethan shrugged. Doesn't have to be a relationship, man. Just something to take your mind off the disaster that is Emma. I ran a hand through my hair. He wasn't wrong. You're right, I admitted. It's just, I don't know. I'm not sure I'm ready for all that right now. Ethan grinned. Nobody says you have to be ready. Just put yourself out there. Let the universe handle the rest. I took a sip of my drink, the burn of the alcohol doing little to soothe the ache that still lingered. But maybe, just maybe, I was starting to feel the smallest bit of curiosity about what was out there beyond Emma. As I sat there, I realized something. I had been so consumed by Emma for years that I had forgotten what it felt like to just be, to exist without the pressure of someone else's expectations. And for the first time in a long time, I wondered what it would feel like to truly be free. The night wore on, and the noise in the bar blurred into the background as I tried to lose myself in the chaos of people, laughter, and clinking glasses. Ethan was having a great time, laughing and chatting with some friends, while I was stuck in my own head, bouncing between thoughts of Emma and the strange connection I'd felt earlier with the redhead at the bar. I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something in the air had shifted. Then, just as I took another sip of my drink, I heard a voice from behind me. "You look like you're a million miles away." I turned, startled, and there she was. The woman with the fiery red hair, leaning against the bar next to me with a casual smile. For a moment, I was speechless. The way she carried herself was magnetic, but there was something about her presence that felt different. Not like a rebound or a quick distraction, but something that made me want to stop running from my thoughts. She cocked an eyebrow. "Not much of a talker, huh?" I blinked, trying to regain my composure. "Sorry, I didn't expect anyone to come up to me." She shrugged, her smile playful. "I'm not exactly known for my subtlety." I couldn't help but chuckle at that. "Fair enough." She tilted her head, studying me with those sharp, blue eyes. "So what's your story?" My stomach flipped at the question, but instead of pushing her away, something in me felt like I wanted to open up. There was something refreshing about her. Something that didn't remind me of Emma's confusion. "I'm just here with a friend, trying to figure out my life," I said, trying to sound casual. "Figuring out your life, huh?" she teased. "That sounds heavy." "Yeah, well, it's been a rough 24 hours, I muttered, before I could stop myself. Her expression softened. "Rough 24 hours? Want to talk about it?" I glanced at her, surprised. "You don't even know me." She shrugged again, her eyes never leaving mine. "I know how it feels to be stuck in your own head. Sometimes, talking helps." There was a pause. Then, before I could stop myself, the words started tumbling out. "My fiancée just walked away. Told me she needed a break to figure things out, and I found out she was talking to her ex." I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of it again. I guess I'm still trying to figure out how to feel about it. Her eyes softened with empathy. "Damn, that sucks." "Yeah," I agreed. "And now I'm here, trying to find some kind of distraction so I don't lose my mind." She leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've been there. Not the same situation, but I know what it's like to feel like you gave your heart to someone who wasn't really there." My chest tightened as I locked eyes with her. She wasn't just listening. She was understanding. I swallowed hard. "So what did you do?" She smiled, a little ruefully. "I took control. I walked away from a bad situation, started fresh, and stopped waiting around for people to change their minds." I couldn't help but admire her confidence. There was a kind of power in her words that felt real. "Sounds like you've got your life together," I said, half in awe. She chuckled. "Not exactly, but I learned that I can't make someone else's decisions for them. I can only control how I react. And that's been the best thing I've ever done for myself." I was stunned. For the first time in days, I felt like someone understood what I was going through. Before I could speak again, Ethan's voice cut through the moment. "Yo, you two planning to talk all night? Or do you actually want to have fun?" I looked back at him, then to her. "I should go back to my friend," I said, not wanting to just disappear into the crowd without saying something. She smiled again, a little more warmly this time. "No rush. I'm sure we'll talk again." And just like that, she turned and melted into the crowd. Ethan raised an eyebrow as I sat back down at the table. "So what was that about?" "Nothing." I shrugged, still processing. "Just someone who knows what it feels like to be stuck." Ethan smirked. "Sounds like you made a new friend." I glanced at him, smirking back. "Maybe." And for the first time since the breakup, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't as lost as I thought. The days after that night at the bar blurred together. I'd been out with Ethan a few more times, trying to drown the lingering thoughts of Emma with distractions. It worked for a while, but as time passed, I found myself thinking more about the woman with the fiery red hair. The one who had listened without judgment, who had spoken words that made me feel understood. Her name was Sophie. We exchanged numbers that night, and though we didn't text much at first, I couldn't help but feel a connection. She wasn't in a hurry to rush anything, and neither was I. But we started talking more, mostly about life and what it meant to rebuild after everything had fallen apart. And somehow, the more we talked, the more I realized I was starting to breathe again. Not because of her, but because I was finally starting to heal. One afternoon, a few weeks later, Sophie invited me to grab lunch at a cafe. We'd both been busy, but we found a small window of time to meet up. I wasn't sure what I expected, but when I saw her waiting outside, the weight of the last few months seemed to lift just a little. She waved when she saw me, that familiar smile lighting up her face. She was wearing a simple black sweater and jeans, but it felt like she had a quiet confidence that drew me in every time I saw her. "Hey," she greeted me, her voice warm. "Hey," I replied, a grin tugging at my lips. We sat down, and for a few minutes, it was just casual small talk. How our weeks had been, what we'd been up to. But soon, the conversation turned more serious. "So, how are you really doing?" Sophie asked, her gaze soft but direct. I stared at my coffee cup, taking a deep breath. "Honestly, I'm better than I've been in months. I still think about Emma sometimes, but it doesn't sting the way it used to. I'm moving on." Sophie nodded, her eyes thoughtful. "That's good. You deserve that." "Thanks," I said, surprised at how much I meant that. "It's been hard, but it's not about her anymore. It's about me." Sophie smiled, and I felt something shift inside me. It wasn't love, at least not yet, but there was a comfort in her presence. A connection that felt real, that didn't come with strings attached or unresolved baggage. "I get it," she said softly. "I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in other people's decisions that we forget to ask ourselves what we want." Her words hit harder than I expected. I'd spent so much time wondering about Emma's choices, waiting for her to make up her mind, that I hadn't stopped to think about what I needed, what I wanted out of life, out of relationships, out of myself. "I've been doing a lot of that lately," I admitted, "just figuring out who I am without all the noise." Sophie's smile grew a little wider. "That's powerful. It's like, once you stop looking back, you realize you have the power to move forward." I stared at her, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. It wasn't just about the breakup anymore. It was about freedom, the freedom to choose my own path, the freedom to define my future. "Thanks, Sophie," I said, feeling genuine gratitude for the first time in a long time. "I don't know what I'd be doing without you, without this." She reached across the table, placing a hand over mine. "You're stronger than you know. You're gonna be just fine." For the first time in what felt like forever, I actually believed it. I was fine. I was more than fine. I was moving on. And whatever the future held, whether it was with Sophie or someone else, I was ready.